Okay, it looks like we're streaming. I'm getting a green kilobyte upload. I've got a connection starting with YouTube. Let me just see how that's going. With YouTube. Okay. I think we're about ready to go. Hello everyone. I thought tonight we'll have a look at... why am I getting Facebook notifications? How do I turn that off? Settings.
Please welcome the next Prime...
Okay. Okay, so welcome. Just wait till we get a few people on, and then we will have a look at the is that working? Okay. Oh, I've got one person watching. Hello. Just gonna check the quality. Let me know how it works if I'm getting any stutters or anything with regards to my stream. I've got my Optus internet here. I think it's all good. Okay, so hello everyone. I thought tonight I'd just do a little bit of a let's watch. We'll have a look at Bill Shorten's... Hang on, I had a computer funny thing going on there. I hope the protests are cringy. Well, I saw one protester. I watched it really quick. So I've got my coffee. I've got my water, because now I'm living the keto life. I can't watch this with a beer, so we'll see. We'll see if I can get through one of Bill Shorten's speeches. And if I'm looking down here, that's because I've got all my my setup. I've actually got 6 computer screens in front of me. So I thought we'd have a look at Bill Shorten's address to the 48th Australian Labor Party National Conference in Adelaide. Now, Labor is united, we are determined, and we are ready to govern, so long as you're not a white male, you know, as long as you fit into one of our nice little identity politics things. So I thought we'd have a watch, a bit of a chat, and maybe let's see, every time there's a protester, you got to chug a drink, make a drinking game of it. Or every time he says, what should we drink to? What can you think about, guys? What will he say that we can drink to? Well, I'll have a drink of water. Every time he says something stupid, how about that? Okay, so here we go. And please let me know in the comments if there's any issue with the quality or anything. I've had a lot of issues with just getting OBS and YouTube working for the streams. It's all fun and games. So here we go.
Prime Minister of Australia, Bill Shorten.
It's a bit presumptuous, isn't it? Wait, there's our first protester. Hang on. Oh, my mother's calling me. There's our first protester. There we go. Stop Adani. Stop Adani. So I'm going to keep going, and I'm just going to tell my mother I'm streaming. Can you picture him as our Prime Minister, our leader of the entire country? I don't know. Oh, look at this guy. You reckon he's happy, you know, to be seeing Bill? He doesn't look like it. What a perfect time to pause. Ah, thanks for the compliment, KA. Appreciate it. Things are going great, actually. The year's finishing well. The year's finishing really well. Who do you reckon we'd have as an alternative to Shorten for Labor leader here in Australia? You know, who could really... I can't think of anyone that really stands out. He's a bit of a Chad, slept and climbed his way to the top. He's even lost the man boobs. Oh, is he getting tighter? Probably all the stress. Is that his wife? Oh, well, good work. You know, good on you. You know women, they always like men with power, one way or another. I'll get in trouble if I say that. Now I can't actually... dig up Caldwell and make him leader. Here we go.
Will you please stop the Adani coal mine? There's bushfires across Queensland. Heat records are tumbling. The Great Barrier Reef is headed for a third bleaching event. We have to stop the Adani coal mine.
Thanks for making that statement. Do I get to keep the flag?
You can keep the flag.
Thank you.
Do I get to keep the flag? Oh, well, you know, going against the bushfires.
Mate,
thank you.
Absolutely, of course.
Cheers.
Here you are.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Good on you, mate.
Great.
Cheers.
Really
See ya.
appreciate it. It's going to be so important you do that. Thanks very much. I'll catch you later. I really...
Oh, good, he handled that well. Although I would like to have seen a bit more of the footage of the protesters. It's red. Yeah, you're right, it is red.
I think our visitors should leave the stage now.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you making your point. That's okay.
Show him the way out. Thank you.
Thanks, Henry. Oh, okay. Which one's this?
Okay, we'll call for the escorts. Can I just make this point? We're Australia's oldest political party. We have a proud history of democracy. We all understand the right to protest, but that doesn't involve the right to drown out the leader of the opposition in the most important speech. So could you please leave the stage?
I prefer Trump's style. Get him out of here. Yeah, Trump is, well, come on. We don't have anyone in his league. We don't have anyone in his league here in Australia.
Friends,
yeah,
I know
free
these
speech when we
people are
say.
well-intentioned, but the only people they're helping is the current government of Australia.
Okay, sure. Yeah, no, not really.
And I would say to everyone gathered here that I've waited as opposition leader for the next election for 5 years and 2 months, and if I've got to wait a couple of more minutes, well, I just will.
Hopefully you'll wait a bit longer than that, mate. Hopefully a bit longer than that. We're all going to work for a bureaucratic gang under Labor. Yeah, it's.
The security don't hurt themselves.
Is he saying something? More protesters. Is that a man or a woman walking past?
Oh, it's all right.
Yeah, he is no Trump. Bloody hell.
All right. I think...
ALP means massive debts come 2020. Yeah, I think we need a recession, to be honest. I think there's a generation that needs to learn what a recession is. We've had it really good for a long time. Remember, you know, there'll be a lot of people too young to even remember the last recession Australia had to have. They wouldn't even know what that is. I make jokes when I go shopping about money for Bill. Oh, Ollie, you're doing too many stuff. You're appearing there. Oh, well.
got a right to protest, but you've got to ask yourself when you see these protests, who's the winner? It's the coalition. And what we are going to do as Australia's oldest and continuous progressive political party, we will not be deterred because our eyes are on the prize of a better...
Now, I'm just going to be completely immature. And you reckon we get a beard on him? What do you think? You think a beard for Christmas? For good old Shorty? What do you think? You think that will work? Because you're calling him a soy boy. You know, if we get a good beard on him, it might get him a bit more masculine. You know, maybe a bit of stubble. He just looks dead there. He looks dead. I'll save this and I'll put it up on my website. Okay, let's get back to it. Oh, I love the snipping tool in Windows. It's so much fun. And a summer beard. Oh, the 82 recession, yeah.
We've already had 2 protests, and goodness knows what the current Prime Minister will do to try and upstage it. Anyway, that's because I love national conference. We've been coming here and doing national conferences since 1900, and it's because we are the party upon whom the eyes of the nation are focused for progress. And thank you all very much for coming here today.
Sorry, guys, I couldn't help it.
Tanya Plibersek, and we saw her exercising that velvet strength for which she is very well known for. Tanya, you are a true friend and an outstanding Deputy Leader, and you will be a brilliant Deputy Prime Minister.
Is that Tanya Wage Gap Plibersek, who thinks childcare is the same as sheet metal work or welding? Yeah, she'll definitely make an outstanding Deputy Leader. I don't know. Look at, there we go, you know.
I have to say that working alongside you, and indeed working alongside my whole talented, united, hard-working parliamentary team for more than 5 years now, it has been a remarkable privilege. So I thank you, Tanya, and I thank every member of the Federal Parliamentary Party for putting Labor in the position we're in the shadow of the federal election. Thank you all very much for your work and your contribution.
Okay, so he's just thanking everyone.
I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet. I pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. And in this first hour, on the first day of our 48th conference, let our party rededicate ourselves to the unfinished business of reconciliation. Let us pledge to take the statement from the heart into our hearts. And if I'm elected Prime Minister, in my first week, I and my team will sit down with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander leaders to talk about closing the gap in genuine partnership, to talk about truth-telling and treaties, and to talk about Labor's first priority.
Notice how he's proposing to do talk. More and more talk. Talk, talk, talk. I guess that's what they're good for. They think talk... Well, actually, I remember my member here in Moreton, when he was talking about everything he did. It was all about sitting on committees, doing this, achieving this. This is just talking, talking, talking. Not actually doing. Not actually any action. And you're not going to... It's just going to be another whole series of failed talking attempts. It's not going to do anything.
Constitutional change. A voice for our First Nations people in the Constitution.
I'm sure, you know, political activists and the Indigenous community will be happy for that, but I can't imagine the average Joe Blow will care at all. I think they just want to get a job and be happy. I don't know how anyone
Now,
thinks
delegate-
Australia is a racist country considering how much we spend on Indigenous people here. But how much we waste, it's really sad. It really is sad.
Its Labor conferences are unique. They are open. They are democratic. And they do matter. And only our party does this. Now, the Liberals host those awkward high teas where they resolve to sell the ABC.
Didn't he, Shorten, just get in the paper to, because he was, Andrews, sorry, it was Andrews from Victoria, because his red shirt supporters were all Chinese businessmen from overseas.
The Greens, they assemble in a secret treehouse somewhere, location not described,
Oh, come on, they're your masters.
exhibiting all of the qualities of a cult, except leadership.
Yeah, okay, that's a good joke. I like that one.
We gather and meet as a party, as a movement, as true believers in a cause. And ever since that very first Labor conference, way back in 1900, these gatherings witness real passion, genuine debate. And the decisions that we make here define our party. They reflect our values. We should take pause and remember, let us remember that at the last conference, we set a target of 50% women in our federal parliamentary party by 2025. And as Senator Wong reminded me, it was here in South Australia, the first state in the nation to give women the vote.
Identity politics. They're going the identity politics route. Uh-oh.
The first place in the world where women could run for Parliament. I'm particularly proud to say that if we win the next election,
What about the other
our Labor
90?
government will be the first in Australian history
Yeah, that's going to be a problem.
with 50% women in the parliamentary ranks. Now, friends, these conferences are not just about modernising our party. They're about changing our nation for the better.
Changing our nation.
Over the next 3 days, the eyes of Australia are upon us. With the Liberals languishing
Yeah, they won't let
in
us
their
see what
sixth year
they're
of
going to talk
government,
about. We won't get to
onto
vote
their
on that.
third Prime Minister, Australians in greater numbers are looking to Labor like never before. Looking to Labor for unity, looking to Labor for stability, and looking to Labor for our vision for the future, our plan for the fair go for all Australians. Friends, our Labor mission begins with building an economy that works in the interests of everyone.
I'm shocked at Andrews as well.
A strong economy of a skilled workforce where businesses have the confidence and incentive to invest, to grow and to employ, including a 25%.
I like it how they're all talking about business. And how many people in that party do you think have actually gone through the struggles of having to run a business and employ people in this country and put up with all the red tape and BS that exists? It's not easy. That's why more and more businesses are offshoring, because you don't have to deal with the BS. It's that simple.
Tax rate for 99% of all businesses. A fair economy where the middle class and working class Australians get their rightful share of our national wealth, including our bigger tax refund for 10 million working Australians.
I guess, yeah, union is a
And
business.
a growing economy where we build upon what Australia does best, including new investments in infrastructure, tourism, advanced manufacturing, defence industries.
Advanced manufacturing. I try and specify Australian products on my architectural projects. It's a nightmare. And defence? Okay, maybe in World War II we built one of the best, most advanced tanks for this part of the world, but defence?
Rail, renewable energy. Our plan for a stronger, fairer, growing economy is right for the times because our nation is doing it tough as we speak. We gather in the shadow of our nation's economic growth, which is slowing. Living standards are stagnating. Wages growth is at record lows. More and more people are dipping into their household savings just to pay the bills.
Yes. See you, mate. I understand. I understand.
Is eating away at our
I
prosperity.
understand.
Yet this government
Don't worry.
pretends that
It's only 43 minutes.
Australians
I'm
have
drinking.
never had it so good. We live in a world of rapid and dramatic industrial and technological and environmental change. Yet this government presents no energy policy to the people, no climate policy for the future, no plan for skills and training, but cuts. And they have no plan at all for wages.
Because we don't want the government involved in any of that stuff. Come on, Shorty, you got to understand.
Just when Australia needs plans for the future, the Liberals are mired in the past. This government's single obsession is themselves. And our current circumstance in the nation is not just a government of economic incompetence, environmental apathy, and social
Yeah, let's environmental apathy. Let's spend a fortune to achieve nothing. Well, actually, that sounds perfectly like what a government could do, isn't it?
responsibility. It is much more than that. It is a discount on our ambition. It diminishes our imagination and it devalues our hopes. It drives a wedge between the generations. It rips up that...
It drives a wedge between the generations. Maybe, you know, sinking tremendous, or creating tremendous amount of government debt and passing that on to future generations and having unsustainable policies. And by sustainability, I mean the rapid immigration to certain part of the cities, not opening up more land for development. If the government just stepped out of the way, the market would respond.
Covenant of trust that each successive generation will have regard for the next. It polarises our nation. It disconnects us, divides us. When I hold my town hall meetings, I can hear it in people's voices. I can witness it in their eyes. Our fellow Australians are working hard, but they're trying their best, but they can't figure out what's happened to their country. They feel like that no matter what they do, the fix is in, that the game is indeed rigged. Our fellow Australians who travel hours every day to insecure work in 2 or 3 different jobs, earning less than they deserve, being paid less than they're owed, and yet paying more tax than a multinational company.
Just a whole lot of rubbish.
Families are loading up the credit card at the end of every fortnight to pay the bills.
Yeah, no, he's got a point there. Our consumer debt is insane at the moment, but I don't think government is going to solve it. I don't think they can. They need to, if they want to solve it, he needs to deregulate a lot of industries. Free up people to not have to pay, like Uber when it first arrived, the drive cost you nothing. Now it's like $2,000. That's employment opportunities taken away from people because of government meddling.
People are being ripped off by power companies, driven out of private health insurance by private health insurers.
Ripped off by power companies. Well, let nuclear develop. Go on, let nuclear develop.
Increasing the premiums. Ripped off by dodgy banks and the big bosses. And people are being let down.
The dodgy banks that believe in the identity politics that you're pushing. Just look at the CEO of ANZ.
Down and ignored by their government. You know who I speak of. Teenagers who cannot find an apprenticeship. Mature age
there will be
workers
red
who
tape.
can't get a look in. Farmers in rural communities battling drought but buried in paperwork and red tape. Small business.
How Labor? Look at their background. It's red. They're bureaucrats. Half of the people in their cabinet are lawyers, I bet, or teachers.
This is burdened.
Yeah, government policy does create the problems.
NBN. Pensioners and veterans treated like second-class citizens, made to wait months for modest entitlements that they've paid their whole life for. Yet this government can whistle up $500 million in half an hour for well-connected private foundations.
Remember this, because he's promising half of doing the same thing for a well-connected international organisation.
There are school children who cannot understand why it is so hard for the so-called adults in the government to recognise...
Okay, no. There's school children that have been indoctrinated by an education system. And they're probably dumb if they don't understand the implications of what they're actually talking about.
The climate change is real, and the need to do something urgent.
Yeah, let's get rid of negative gearing. Yeah, well. How many tradies do you know where the husband and wife have negative geared investment property and used it to build up their wealth and to be upwardly mobile? You know, and that all of these people here, all the Labor people, I guarantee you they did that. And they're going to take that opportunity away from the next generation.
There are people right now in our communities financially ruined by the cost of cancer treatment.
60 million to Clinton. Oh.
We cannot find aged care for a parent diagnosed with a dementia. These are Australians on the wrong side of inequality.
I like it how he's mentioning dementia there. I'm going to do some keto videos later, but there's actually a lot of application for it to treat dementia and minimize the implications of it. But it would mean feeding people in aged care homes fat and whole foods. You reckon that'll happen when grain and crap is so cheap?
Cut off from the fair go, isolated from the promise of our nation. And for our fellow Australians, politics is all too often just another part of the problem. Unhelpful, irrelevant, out of touch with their daily lives. This is why, in a very real sense, I want to say to this conference that our opponents at the next election are not just the Liberals and the Nationals, One Nation or the Greens. Our deeper opponents are distrust, disengagement, scepticism and cynicism. Our Labor mission is not just to win back government. It is to rebuild trust in our very democracy, to restore the meaning to the fair go.
I don't know if you're the man to do that, Bill. I don't know if you're the man.
Around the
Don't think so.
nation, we must breathe new life into an idea that we gathered here in this hall hold.
Yeah,
as
you're
an
right. They don't
article
like
of faith.
white men or boys.
The idea that government has the power to bring meaningful progress into people's lives. The idea...
I guess that's the ideological difference right there. Do you think that government is the way for progress? Or government stepping back is the way for progress? Yeah, I think that's fundamentally an ideological difference, just the amount of liberty in government you want. Whenever I hear inequality, I assume you're a commie. Maybe we should drink every time he says inequality.
that government
Fair go for who, Bill?
has
Yeah.
the ability to bring meaningful progress into people's lives. This is why we are committed to a real National Integrity Commission with proper powers to rebuild trust in our Commonwealth institutions. It is why we have rejected a small target strategy. It is why I and my team have built a bold and detailed policy agenda for the nation, a program for the next decade, not just the next election. Wherever I travel, the Australian people want to hear a plan for the future, and Labor will present a vision of social and economic progress for the 2030s
Ouch.
which is what the Australian people are desperately crying
Maybe you
out
need to
for.
do some training on how to eat a hot dog first.
At all times answering the question, are we handing a better deal on to our kids? And our plan begins with a once-in-a-generation reform to early childhood education.
Yeah, no, Emily's list shocked me when I discovered about that. Wow, they look bored.
Delegates, under a Labor government, every Australian child will have access to 2 years of preschool or kindergarten, 15 hours a week, 40 weeks a year, for every 3 and 4.
Oh, shit. This is terrible. They want more women working, paying more taxes, away from their children. 3 and 4. This is going to backfire. This will... Oh.
4-year-old in our nation, all the experts tell us that 90% of a child's brain develops by the age of 5. And everywhere from the United Kingdom, France and Norway to China, South Korea and New Zealand, universal preschool for 3-year-olds is the norm.
China, universal preschool. You know where else universal preschool was the norm? You know where? Nazi Germany and Austria. Because the state wanted to indoctrinate their children. That's why you don't need to get the state educating preschoolers. You need to free up parents to do that. Bloody hell. This is going to be such a waste. Such a waste of resource. They'll love it. They'll love it. They'll get more people working. And the problem is that the children can get abandonment syndrome. Oh.
I say to you that if this is the world's best practice, and it is, and when it comes to our kids, Australia should never settle for anything less than the best for our kids, and Labor will not settle for less than the best.
I'll have to watch David's speech. I remember when we actually put our first daughter in kindy, and the amount of green hippie shit the teachers were talking about was just ludicrous. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. Mina learned more about African culture going to kindergarten than about Australian culture or European culture. I didn't, you know, fantastic. But, oh, yeah. And it was expensive. Bloody expensive. Yeah, I know they don't care.
And I say to our early childhood educators,
oh, here we go.
the first people with whom we trust our children...
Parents are the people who you should trust with children, not state employees.
Outside the immediate family. We hear you, we understand. You should be trained and paid like the skilled professionals you are.
Are you kidding? Oh, this is Tanya's thing. Oh, wow, they're going with it.
At long last, we will pay early childhood educators what you deserve. That's Labor's promise.
Okay, there you go. Right there. Yeah, no, homeschooling, we're doing it. We've been doing it for a year, and we just got our first report card and did really well. I'm actually thinking about starting up a channel from a dad's perspective of participating in homeschool next year. But yeah, and the school has grown from, what, 700 to 1,100 in like a year. Because they waste so much time on rubbish. Yeah, this is just more tax, more debt. More debt. They won't learn anything. It's a waste of money.
Delegates, I am the son of a great teacher. I'm parent of 3 amazing children. And if I'm elected Prime Minister, I want every Australian child to get a great education at a great school.
This reminds me of Bob Hawke saying no Australian child should live in poverty back in the 80s. And I remember hearing that as a kid. And I went to my dad and I said, oh, you should vote for him. So no kid lives in poverty. It's very similar. It's the same angle that they're doing. Yeah, I know working families do need it. Who's paying? All of us are going to pay. Yeah, it's just going to... It's getting to a point where it's smarter to not work and just live off all the government teat.
No matter what their parents earn, no matter where they live, Every school should teach the basics well: reading, writing, science, maths and coding. Every child should have the chance to try...
The only problem, Bill, is they keep adding all this other identity politics to the curriculum that gets in the way of all these important things. Good on him for coding. Yeah, by 1990, no poverty.
Art and sport and music and drama and camps. Every child should get the individual attention they deserve.
You can't get individual attention in a classroom of 30 people. No, not possible. Not possible in your system. Never going to happen.
And need to flourish. And every Australian child, school child, should be safe. Safe from bullying and discrimination in the playground and online. So a Labor government will put in the money and resources and teacher training to make this promise a reality. Under a Labor national government, there will be no ifs, no buts, nothing done on the cheap. No more...
Nothing done on the cheap? Where's he going to pull this money? He was just talking about how the economy's in trouble and he's giving away shit.
Blaming the teachers, no culture wars, no obsessing over the number of times that Captain Cook is mentioned in the curriculum.
They're already obsessing over transgender programming and all this other, you know, safe schools rubbish. Look at what's happening in the UK. Over there. Oh, wait, is this where he's going to say that they're going to tell Australian kids that boys get periods too? Sorry if you saw my thumbnail for that video. I couldn't help it.
Our promise is just a quality education for every Australian child. That's Labor's promise.
I don't think you could even achieve that, Bill. I don't think you understand. It's not doing more of the same. If you want to get quality education, you need to embrace technology. You need to embrace a global market and open up the whole sector. You know, be smart. Give people, you know, a credit token that you could take to any school and let competition do it. That'd be really good.
Delegates, you understand that in the next 4 years alone, 9 out of every 10 new jobs will either need a university degree or a TAFE qualification.
I don't think that's because the jobs actually require that. I think it's just degree inflation. And honestly, I'm probably steering my children away from university. I think it's a waste of money and time.
And I want 10 out of
learn it all
every 10
online.
young Australians to be prepared for that economy and for those new jobs. So Labor will uncap university...
The thing is, the government never creates jobs. They just move money around. You know, all the jobs they created are money taken out of the economy and then redistributed. So it's always a net kind of negative.
Places, meaning that in the next decade alone, another 200,000 children and adults...
So he's going to up university numbers, so you're going to have more people crammed through the existing system with the existing infrastructure. Yeah, that'll work, Bill. That'll work.
From the regions and the suburbs can become the first in their family to get a university degree. This is what Labor governments do.
Yeah. Okay, comment on that one. When they first, who was it? Whitlam brought in free university for everyone. Free university in Australia. Everyone had it. And you know what happened? Because he was saying the exact same thing. So a whole generation will be the first person who will be going to university. A few years later, they discovered it made absolutely no bloody difference in who was attending university. This has been tried before 30 years ago. It failed. Entirely it failed. Oh. And they're doing it again. It's just to win votes. No one cares.
Labor values are to open the doors of higher education to everyone who studies hard and chases their dreams. And further, friends, I'm really proud to declare that when it comes to vocational education, Labor is backing public TAFE all the way.
When you actually look at how much TAFE costs compared to what you get or what you can get from overseas, from online courses, it just doesn't make sense. You know, you go to Linda, you can get all these courses for like $100 a year. You can even get it for free from a library, learn all these practical skills. You know, and it's just insane. It's so expensive, so out of date. There's no innovation there.
In our first year in government, we are going to launch a great national program of renovating, upgrading and modernising TAFE campuses, starting in our regional centres and the outer suburbs.
Okay, so he's ploughing money into built infrastructure for TAFE. So people can go to campuses when a lot of education is online and remote now. Yeah, okay. That's innovative.
I truly believe that you measure the value a society puts upon education by the spaces and buildings in which we house our education. I want to send a message to the next generation that we think that TAFE education is important, and we will
like
give you the
NBN.
best resources to show that our society values education above all else. I want our TAFE campuses to stand as monuments to the nation's respect for apprenticeships and training and the bright future that technical training has in this country. And therefore, in our first 3 years alone, a Labor government will eliminate upfront fees for 100,000 TAFE places in high priority courses. That's Labor's promise.
Hey, it's actually a bit empty there. They're not full. They haven't sold out all the tickets. Trump gets more people coming to his things. Yeah, it's just to back up his union mates, you know, in the education sector. You're right. I agree with you there.
I say to every Australian parent watching this address, Labor's promise is that if you want your child to get an apprenticeship,
Yeah, you're right there.
we will deliver on your dreams for your kids. And we will come down further like a ton of bricks on companies using and abusing 457 style work visas to merely avoid paying and employing local workers and paying fair wages.
Honestly, you probably have a better job coming out of TAFE than going to uni these days. Be cheaper. Full of hipster soy
Labor
boys, yeah.
believes that no skills shortage in any calling, in any occupation or trade, should last one day longer than it takes to train an Australian to fill that vacancy. Full stop.
But why should Australians do it when you can, you know, get all government money for free and not work?
Now, if my team and I have the privilege to form the next government of Australia, we understand that our job means representing everybody. Everybody. The farmers, the small business owners, the startups. Everybody. Young and old, wherever you live, whoever you love, whatever God you pray to, indeed, whoever you vote for. Our job will be to represent everybody.
How are you going to
do
do
that? We will
that?
do something that this government are pathologically incapable of doing. We will work with the Australian trade union movement, and we will stand up for Australia.
I thought you're run by the Australian trade union movement. Isn't that what it means? What about men? Yeah, we know what he thinks about men. What does he know about farmers? And well, he went out and remember he saw the farmers. Didn't he drive out there once for a bushfire and eat a hot dog this way?
My goodness, we will indeed stand up. We will stand up for good jobs, secure jobs, jobs with fair pay and decent and safe conditions. Let me be clear. It is not a secure job if you have to wait up each night, awaiting a text to let you know if you've got a shift the following morning. It is not a good job if you have to work 2 other jobs all hours in the night.
Do you think he understands that to make these jobs, you got to free up the economy?
And day just to pay the bills. They are not decent conditions if your wages
You're
are
right.
stolen
NPCs.
or you do not have the right to be
Female only
represented by a
apprenticeships.
union, or you cannot seek fair representational recourse because your employer is manipulating labour hire to dodge responsibility. And it is neither a good job nor a decent conditions if you don't come home safe. If you're made to drive dangerously long hours, if you are...
Or if you're installing ceiling bats under a rapidly deployed government scheme with, out any considerations, and dying in that process, perhaps.
Are exposed to industrial diseases or sent onto sites without the safety checks and training being in place. Working people are not commodities to be traded at the lowest...
Women don't have the same interest in STEM as men. You're never going to get 50-50. What they'll do is they'll just cut men out of it.
Possible price. They are not costs to minimise. They are not anonymous or inevitable casualties of economic and technological change. This is not the Australian way. It is not the Labor way. That is why in our first 100 days, we will restore Sunday and public holiday penalty rates for 700,000 workers.
Look at that guy. Bloody hell, he needs keto. Shit. Why did they pan at him? And then what about pretty girls? Business will just shut down with that. I know restaurants that can't afford to open because of the costs. You pay $50 an hour for someone to carry a plate.
And for the record, we are going to make bargaining work again so employees and employers can negotiate without the unfair threat of...
One problem he doesn't realise, people will, one, offshore the work, two, invest in technology that reduces the amount of staff you have. It's that simple. We're in the future now. It's going to hurt your primary voter base more than anyone else.
Of the unilateral termination of workers' conditions in the current system. We are going to crack down on the overuse and abuse of labour hire casuals because it's pretty simple, really. If you wear the same uniform, in the same workplace, perform the same tasks at the same classification, you deserve the same wages and conditions. So we will make law if we are elected.
I once had a
if you do the
client
same
visit an
job,
office and I
you
was
get
worried
the
I had to put
same
two
pay.
chairs for him to
Same
sit
job,
down.
same pay.
Same job, same pay. They'll just stratify stuff. Are those Greens people there? How are they allowed in?
We are going to stop sham contracting and introduce a new, stronger test for the definition of casual employment. Because many Australians are sick and tired of being classed as casual for years just because your boss doesn't want to pay you holiday pay or sick pay. It's not good enough. And we...
Does he know casuals get 25% more per hour? Some people want that cash. They want the flexibility. They want the freedom. Oh, of course not.
We'll create a just transition authority so that work...
Oh, another authority. Bloody hell. I don't want to employ anyone in this country anymore. I'm at the point now where I want to offshore it. As much as I like training people up and seeing their careers progress, it's gotten to the point where it's just so frustrating.
Workers and communities affected by significant change can be helped adapting to industrial change. And friends, I'm very pleased.
He was silent on International Men's Day. Well, all of the bastards were, weren't they?
Superannuation part of the national employment standards.
Yeah, you're right. The gig economy is here to stay, unless they bugger it up. Labor doesn't care about men. They just need to get our tax dollars out of it.
Of Australian workers are a workplace right. They deserve the same strong protection as other workplace rights. And bosses who rip off their staff, who don't pay their super, who steal their super, should receive the same punishments and penalties as those who violate other workplace rights.
He's going on about super. One thing that always frustrated me was that staff don't really appreciate the super that you pay them. They only get to see their little paycheck, and they don't, they know the super's there, but they don't see it as money that they have or as part of their wealth. I always thought it'd be good if the super goes through their hands and they have to pay it. That'd be good. Then they'd appreciate it a bit more.
And also, for every Australian who can't find a job, we will review and reform New Start, because that system should support people back into work, not punish them in poverty.
That's interesting. If you can find a way to create more incentives and try and get people working, that'd be good. Because the danger is the welfare trap.
And delegates, every time we talk about fair pay, this includes equal pay for the women of Australia.
Wow. He's talking about the wage cap. Shit. Do people really believe that anymore? I guess everyone in Labor does.
Chloe and I don't want our daughters growing up in an Australia where the gender pay gap means that they effectively work the first 2 months of the year for free.
We all work 3 months of the year for you bastards.
Compared to their male counterparts.
It's just...
This is Labor's promise. No more pay discounts because you're a woman. That's Labor's promise.
That's, I mean, okay, he's singing, he's preaching to the choir, they'll love it, he won't have to do anything at all, and it'll get him some votes from dumb people, so,
We will strive from the first day of an election for pay equity for feminised industries, including but not limited to aged care workers, early educators and paid carers for the Australians we're counting on to deliver the National Disability Insurance Scheme.
Bloody hell. Aged care is expensive. My father was in aged care recently, and it was a huge burden and cost. And oh, wow. Okay, well, no, I know we need better conditions, but where are they going to get the money?
And speaking of the National Disability Insurance Scheme, a great Labor initiative. This great Labor initiative needs a Labor government to get it back on track. I know the Conservatives voted for it, but you know their heart's not in it.
Look at this. What a despicable attack there.
And the last 5 and a bit years has shown their heart is not in it. The current system is over-engineered, over-complicated, overpopulated with consultants and corporates who have no lived experience of disability.
I've got a good friend, Goff, and he recently spoke to a function for Vision Australia down at Parliament, Canberra. And he was talking to a whole bunch of politicians. And what he did was he pretty much tore apart the whole industry of support services for disabled people. How these people, they just, jump from one company to another, and they're all kissing each other's asses, and they pretty much give you crap support and crap services. Maybe we need a royal commission into those industries.
There are too many
layers, I'm hearing a lot of bad things about it.
Too many people with genuine need who are made to feel like frauds and cheats by assessors. One father I know was asked, "How long has your daughter had Down syndrome?" Can you imagine that? Labor created the NDIS.
What's wrong with that question? I don't understand. It's a medical question. Maybe she was injured. Maybe she had it her whole life.
NDIS to empower the lives of people with disability, to put them at the centre of decision-making about their lives, to put them in control of their lives. So Labor will restore the NDIS to its proper status. We will rescue the NDIS from the coalition, and put people with disability back at the centre of decision-making, as it was always intended.
I don't think they even have the capacity to do that. Just ideologically, they want to add more bureaucracy to it. They need to hire some, Leinholm as a consultant to see how can we minimise the government input into this process. I'd be all in favour of giving them credit certificates or something, and then give them the power.
Friends, a hidden struggle in this country is being fought by hundreds of thousands of our fellow Australians who cannot afford to live anywhere near where they work. They're spending between 30% and 60% of their pay packet on rent, plenty more each day on petrol when they travel. Nothing more soul-destroying than a person renting that at the start of every fortnight, there goes a significant chunk of their pay packet.
Well, why don't they open up more land for development? Why don't they reduce all of the BS they have in our construction codes that adds cost? All these sustainable things, these other little tests, it all adds up. You'd be shocked at how much.
And they wonder how on earth do they ever make ends meet? This is a national challenge and it requires and demands national leadership. So today I am proud to announce that if we are elected, a Labor government will build
sex work access
250,000 new affordable homes.
Okay, how? You probably wouldn't be a bad idea giving incels access to sex workers. Yeah, imagine that.
250,000 new homes for low-income working families, for key workers like nurses, police, carers and teachers. And for the fastest growing group of Australians at risk of loneliness and homelessness, women over 55.
The fastest growing... See here, women. Well, men are the largest group of those things. Oh, Bill.
Voiceless in the political debate until...
Voiceless in the political debate. You've got to be kidding. You've got half your cabinet as women. Or half your party.
Today.
And you were just talking about how they got the first vote in Adelaide, in South Australia. Anyway, it's just spin. Yeah, 200,000 shoddy units, yep.
50,000 new homes. Universal design, fully accessible for all ages and for people with disability.
Oh, that's going to cost a fortune.
Energy efficient, meaning lower power bills.
Oh, fuck, that's going to cost a fortune.
And with a rental discount of 20%. Our plan...
So the state's going to build them. It'll be 50% above market price, and then they'll give you a discount on it.
Will mean that a family paying the national rental average would save up to $92 a week every week.
$92 a week. How much is it going to cost you in taxes to implement this thing, mate?
Week of the year. And we will work with the states and territories, local councils, and those mighty community housing providers to manage development and congestion to make sure that these homes are built where they're needed most and to go to the people who need them most, not foreign investors nor international students. And I want to see industry super stepping up and investing in affordable housing projects, investing in the homes for the people of this country. Delegates, this is a conference which always looks towards the big ideas. Today, this is a big idea. It will be the biggest national housing program since the Second World War.
When my father immigrated to Australia, he came from Germany and he worked on the concrete housing project in Victoria. The first thing they gave him was to find out why all the precast houses were cracking, why the slabs were cracking. Because he'd worked on nuclear plants, reactors in Germany, and he knew that there wasn't enough cover in the concrete. And you look at now we're churning these things out. Boom, 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 boom. But now they just add so much paperwork and BS and these 6-star energy houses. Anyway.
And we can pay for this $6.6
Here we
billion
go.
investment in jobs and housing and productivity in the future of our cities because we've made the big reform decisions. This is a boost for renters and for the livability of our growing suburbs and our rural and regional towns. And alongside our plans to make negative gearing fairer,
Negative gearing fairer. There we go.
it'll drive a pipeline boom in construction jobs and apprenticeships. And just like our plans for new public transport, developing the mighty north, new energy pipelines and interconnectors, when we invest precious Australian taxpayer dollars, we will maximise local content like Australian standard steel. We'll make sure that regional communities like Cairns and Townsville, the Central Coast of New South Wales and Northern Tassie get their fair share of the Commonwealth contracts, jobs and opportunities. And we're going to make a concrete rule. Wherever there is a Commonwealth dollar being expended in infrastructure, 1 in 10 people employed on the site will be an Australian apprentice.
So, whoop-de-doo, they've already got all that type of stuff in place in all these government programs. You know, you look at any tender submission, that's all taken into account. They're all little loopholes to get out of it. You know, whoop-de-doo. Yeah, you're right, it will lower wages.
Building more affordable housing is infrastructure policy, it is cities policy, it is jobs and productivity policy, and it is a fair income population policy. Labor is the party of home ownership, and we are the party of affordable housing and community housing, because when you provide an affordable home for hard-working people, you give them the level playing field and the fair start they need. I know that when every Australian has the chance to fulfil their potential, the whole nation benefits, and the opportunity to have a roof over your head will turbocharge the potential of the Australian people even more.
Yeah, well, no, I like the sentiment. Getting people in homes and
Delegates,
stability
we know
is
that
good.
we're lucky to live in a country with some
want
of the
the states
best
to do it.
and most dedicated healthcare workers in the world. Our people are the best in the world. In fact, we're fortunate to have our fair share in the caucus too. Mike Freelander, a paediatrician, Emma McBride, a hospital pharmacist, Jed Carney, a nurse, Amanda Rishworth, a psychologist, and of course our outstanding candidate for Bennelong, Dr. Brian Allen, Mr. Medicare.
Well, I know our ED departments,
They
emergency
know,
departments are among the
indeed,
best
we all
in the
know that
world.
Liberal cuts to health and hospitals are putting staff and our system under terrible strain, pushing up the out-of-pocket costs, putting services out of reach. We
Well,
are
no,
a rich nation.
it's actually got more to do with population
a
increase, Bill. That's the biggest thing. It's a huge increase in population, particularly here in Queensland, Logan. You know, the hospitals there have had to grow, Ipswich, because of the huge population increase.
Smart nation. And if you're fighting breast cancer or melanoma,
Yeah, it's hard to say for a deposit if you've got to
child
pay
is
so much
seriously ill.
out.
if you're living in chronic pain from bad knees or a crook hip, if you've got cataracts that you need removed to get back your quality of life, there's only one thing that should matter. Not your wealth, not your postcode, not your ability to pay a bit extra. One thing only. A Gough Whitlam vision that Bob Hawke made reality. A Labor promise written in green and gold. The one thing that matters is your Medicare card. That is why we are going to end the Liberals' Medicare freeze. That is why we're going to put the money back that they've cut from hospitals. That is why we will fund more beds, more staff and more
Prostate
equipment.
cancer, yeah, you're right.
Because quality healthcare should be available to every Australian, whenever and wherever they need. That is our promise. Labor wants every Australian to get quality health care whenever and wherever they need it. No issue is any more.
So they're going to pump more money into our health system to try and address a lot of the chronic diseases that we have now in our civilization. And I'll be talking about this because all the keto research I've done, just looking at so much that's caused by insulin or metabolistic insulin resistance, where you're developing early stages of diabetes and all the number of diseases that can affect that. You know, if they put a fraction of the money they're throwing into here into proper research into getting a good diet for Australia, that'd have much more effect. But he's not that smart.
More important than that Labor promise.
He's not that smart.
Delegates, when it comes to climate change,
Yeah, you're right there.
our opponents trade in toxic politics. We deal in simple facts. Climate change is real. It's a threat to our economy and our environment.
Doesn't he realise that any of the proposed Australian investments to mitigate our carbon, to offset the carbon we produce, is going to have no implication on global climate change? So that means he's spending money for nothing, and that will hurt our economy.
Ignoring it or fighting about it.
Yeah, the
won't
food
make it
pyramid's
go
crap
away.
if you throw it all out,
For the
guys.
sake of our farmers, for the sake of our reef, for the sake of our kids and grandkids.
Sake of our reef. Sugar and fat tax. They should probably subsidise red meat. Fat is good. Fat's good for you. You want to eat saturated fats. Natural.
We have to take action. We will cut pollution by 45% by 2030. And today I announce
Pollution. What pollution? There's hardly any pollution in Australia at the moment. It's the cleanest it's been in a long time.
that a Labor government will pass a new Environment Act and create a new Commonwealth Environmental Protection Agency to preserve our oceans and rivers and coasts and bushland, to protect the native species that...
More bureaucracy. Just look at I made a video a few days ago, about a week ago, about land clearing here in Queensland for farmers and all the issues that cause. Bureaucracy. More bureaucracy and BS.
Call Australia home, and we will deliver furthermore
Yep, HFLC.
50% renewable energy by 2030. We are going to unleash the...
Is nuclear considered renewable? Because you can reprocess the nuclear uranium, the products, can't you? That's renewable. It is.
potential of our renewable energy revolution. It was only back in 2007 that a mere 7,000 Australian homes had...
I actually went and had a lunch at a property meeting for the Brisbane Club. And they're all talking about solar panels, and all these people there that are joining this club, and they're having an expensive lunch, and they're all talking about getting their subsidies for their bloody solar panels, and some of them had like 30 grand worth of panels on their houses. And I'm going, well, your subsidy for panels, which you don't need because you're quite wealthy, is more than a pensioner gets in a year to save you, a couple of grand on your power. They didn't like me in that group.
a solar panel on their roof. Today it's over 2 million households. More and more families are taking back control of runaway power bills, taking pressure off the energy grid, and they have the chance...
It doesn't actually work on the energy grid, mate. It kind of buggers it up sometimes with the transformers, anyway.
Lowering their cost of living, to individually take up the fight against climate change, house by house, street by street.
Oh, he's just singing. He's preaching to his choir. There you go. Look, there's all the greenies. I know that guy. I think he's from Queensland. Look, I think I've recognised. I think I've had a Facebook because when I was running, I remember he came and sat right at the front. Big, fat green guy. I think I had a fight with him on Facebook. He's a two-chair guy. You can't stand. You can't. That's too much exercise.
If
Oh, wait, they're Labour Greens. They're traitors to the Greens. Oh, well.
If nothing more highlights the waste of the last 5 and a bit years under the coalition, it's been the inability of the government to deal with climate change. Australians are so far out ahead.
We can't make any difference on climate change. We're a piss-out little country on the side of the world.
Of the current government, it is no longer funny. But I can promise every Australian committed to taking action on climate change,
Fuck, he's not
every
gonna get in,
Australian
is he,
concerned
guys?
about their energy bills, help is on the way. An elected Labor government will back up the people of Australia, and we'll start with a $2,000 subsidy for 100,000 households to install their own battery storage system.
Oh, crap. That's going to be good for the environment. Bloody hell. Oh, well then, time to move to the bush.
So when the kids are at school and you're at work, the sun is shining, you can store up the power for the use for the evening peak. Batteries are the bridge which turns renewable energy into the conservative solution. But I don't believe Australia should just be installing more batteries alone. We should be making them here.
Yeah, I've got no problem with that at all.
We already produce
plastic
every
bags.
metal
Don't get me started about that one.
needed to make a lithium battery in this country. We've got our
Except the problem is our labour costs are too high. It's so much cheaper to do it in China.
mining industry, we've got the scientists, the skilled workers. Our people have got the get up and go.
We just can't compete on a global scale because we're paying them too much. And don't worry, I'm sure all these other departments you're creating, and we better pay women extra.
Just need the leadership.
Hope for a minority government,
You know,
yeah, bloody hell.
Time and time again, if you look at Australia's economic history, we've been a quarry and a mine for the rest of the world.
It's
We've been a
bullshit. Putting these
commodity
batteries in every
centre.
house is not going to be a net
But
positive
we
for the
wave goodbye to
environment.
our commodities and we buy them back at 30 and 40 times the price.
Yeah.
We pay
If he does
else
push to create a
for
tech
turning our
industry here,
commodities
producing them
into
here,
our
that might be
manufactured
good.
Products.
But if
Time
it's
and
government
time
run,
again,
it won't
governments
survive,
have
won't
missed
be
the opportunity
competitive.
to invest in Australian industry. Well, this time we're going to get it right. We're not going to miss the opportunity to value add in renewable energy in this country. And in years to come, when people are installing battery storage systems, I want to see the mark of quality worldwide to be 3 famous words: made in Australia.
Yeah, and we'll all be buying them from China because it's a third of the price, you idiot. You're going to have to subsidize the hell out of them to be competitive with offshore manufacturing. Does he know how this works? Yeah, you're right. It will be good to get off the grid. Or you could just buy a whole lot of car battery, you know, deep cycle batteries and build your own bloody thing for a lot cheaper.
Delegates, we can build a stronger economy. We can achieve a fairer society. And we can still champion a bigger and bolder sense of our Australian identity. We do not need to be a nation
Wait, he said identity, everyone. Take a shot. Take a shot. He said identity.
Constantly fearful of the world around us, as if we cannot compete, as if we cannot flourish.
Do you know how many Australian manufacturers have closed down recently?
As if somehow our values are a luxury. We can be a country who can write the nation big, not small. We can be an Australia at home with Asia, a better partner in the Pacific, a more independent foreign policy that speaks with an Australian accent. We can be proud champions of our scientists and our athletes and our artists alike. We can be a defender of our ABC.
Become part of China.
We can be a nation
Defender of
back on
ABC.
the road to reconciliation. We can be a multicultural society that knows what makes a good Australian is not whether you've been here 1,000 generations or 8 or 1, not how your family got here, but rather it's the life you build here. Good Australians are not defined by the length of time they've been in this country.
No, he's got a point here about how the life they build here. And I think the problem is everyone keeps saying multicultural when they mean multi-ethnic with a single Australian culture, which is a mishmash of a whole, well, right now, a whole lot of European cultures being infused with a lot of Asian cultures now.
Good Australians are defined by, are they good neighbours? Do they pay their taxes? Do they raise their kids well? Do they help build...
Yeah, well, okay, everything he's saying here, listen to this. A lot of people aren't doing that.
...communities. And we can be a country that stands on its own 2 feet. An Australian republic with an Australian as our head of state.
Oh, shit. He wants to be the President of Australia, everyone. The truth has come out. Little Billy, the President. Crap. I'd rather have the Queen. I'd rather have Charles. Oh, no, I don't like Charles. He's shit. His architecture likes his crap.
Delegates, there is a final crucial point I want to make about our plan for the future. Every pledge, from education and health to defence and national security, is fully funded, it's fully costed. Chris Bowen and I and our team have been making the big calls so that we can keep our promises and pay for them. And we can guarantee stronger budget surpluses, not for the sake of it, but to ensure that along with the fair go for all, that our nation is prepared for global uncertainty and international shocks. We do not view future budgets as a last desperate attempt to try and hold power, but rather for a purpose. A budget is not a means in itself, it is a purpose to serve the nation and make sure that the economy is run in the interests of all. This is the Labor approach. Social investment.
Notice how he's talking about the economy being run. It's that ideology coming through there, you know. It's their job as the government to run the economy, not to let it run itself.
Economic responsibility, preparing for a great future. Now, of course...
Yeah, weren't they saying that in Venezuela? Now they're eating their pets.
No tax reforms. They're universally loved, I get that. But for us, governing is about choices. It's about priorities. I would rather
removing a female head of state.
More young couples buying their first home than spending billions subsidising investors to acquire multiple properties.
You know, they're talking, they think they're spending billions, but they're actually freeing people from taxation. You know, they seem to think that tax is theirs. They don't realise they're forcing it out of people.
I would rather help older Australians get more speedy elective surgery or the aged care package they need than spend $5 billion a year on an income tax refund for people who didn't pay any income tax that year. And I want multinationals to pay their fair share of tax in Australia so Australians don't have to keep paying more to see their doctor.
So he's blaming the multinationals. Well, you know how they get out of paying tax in Australia? Because Ireland has the smart tax advantages to get those countries to base their headquarters there. Maybe we could do something like that.
I want to be Prime Minister of an Australia with the world's best schools and hospitals, not the world's richest banks and the most generous tax loopholes. Delegates, it was way back in 1891, the year that our party was born. Henry Lawson spoke of our continent as a garden full of promise. A garden full of promise. And it's always been Labor, our party and the movement, that makes good on that promise. A living wage, the age pension, workers' compensation, the right to organise for a better deal.
Don't get me started about workers' comp. I've done work for them. It's such a rort. They get so much money. Oh. The perks the staff get. Unbelievable.
All of these began their life as dangerous experiments, radical notions. We've made them universal rights. Higher education used to be an exclusive privilege. Universal health care, a pipe dream. Superannuation was a luxury known to only a few.
The issue with the universal healthcare system that's developed around countries of the world is that it drives up the cost of services.
We made them instead the definition of the fair go. And we did not do this by looking around the world and aiming a little lower. We did not do this by settling for less. We made our own way, our own story. We planned for the future. We built for the best because our people deserve no less. We trusted Australians, their imagination, their courage, their faith in a Commonwealth in spirit as well as in name. That's how Gough inspired us. It's what Bob taught us. It's Paul's big picture, Kevin's
everyone
victory,
does get a
Julia's
certificate.
determination. It's what our Labor premiers and Labor leaders are doing around the country right now. It is Curtin's task ahead. It's Chifley's light on the hill. It is our Labor way. Right the country large, build for the best. Draw upon the bravery and compassion that ordinary Australians live every day. This is the Labor tradition that will guide us now, passing on a better deal to the next generation than that which we inherited from our parents, passing on a better...
Yeah, no, you're removing opportunities from the next generation. You're removing freedoms and liberties from the next generation. Oh, crap.
Better deal, social progress, economic prosperity, a fair go for all. Delegates, as I said at the beginning, over the next 3 days, truly the eyes of the nation are upon us. We have an obligation to millions of our supporters and millions of Australians who want and need a Labor government that we measure up to it. Collectively, all of us need to earn the trust of the Australian people, because when we leave here on Tuesday evening, we have a most enormous task in front of us. Federal Labor has only won government from opposition 3 times since the Second World War. Now, I know that nobody will work harder than the people in this room to win the next election. And nobody will work harder to be the government that the nation deserves, the government that our nation needs. Because we do not seek victory to make history for our party.
Isn't that why you're basing half your constituents or half your members of cabinet on their gender to make history?
We seek government to build a fairer future for our country. And if we win this election, our #1 challenge, my greatest ambition, is to restore trust in the system, to prove to the Australian people that politics and government can still serve the interests of everyday Australians, still make a difference in the daily lives of our fellow Australians, to show that there is still life, still hope in the fair go. And if I have the privilege to serve as Prime Minister, my greatest hope is that people will say about me at the conclusion of that time, he delivered. He kept to his word. I want the citizens of this country to come up to my parliamentary team over a time in government and say, you know, we did try this together. Maybe we didn't always succeed in every issue, but at last we had a government focused on the people. And when I look at...
On the people, he sounds like a commie.
At my team and I look at our plans, I know that if we keep to our word, we can do great things for this nation. So, friends...
So, yeah, I think he's sincere. But the problem is I don't think his ideology is going to achieve the vision he wants. I don't think he realises the implications of these changes on a complex system, what they'll achieve.
Indeed have a vision for the future, the plan to pay for it and the team to deliver it. We are united, we are determined,
And we are ready. Ready to serve, ready to lead,
Oh, he's an
ready
ideologue.
to deliver a fair go for Australia. Thank you.
Let's have a look at the... Any protesters? Anything exciting happening? SDA. I know that union. Come on, what's going to happen? That looks like a Stop Adani sign there. I wonder if they pay the protesters. Okay. So guys, that was it. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Oh, well. Yeah, Soros pays. Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right. Guys, thank you very much for joining me for this, episode of Heise Says, where we watched Shorten give his speech. I think there's a lot of interesting things that we've heard there. And I'm a little worried that if they're going to get in. But no, thank you all very much. Please like, share, and subscribe. Is this a scenario where Shorten does not become the next PM? If ScoMo can get enough of the population, maybe makes a minority party with some of the other conservative parties. You know, maybe he can. Because ScoMo, I think he's been smart. He's responded to the public in a lot of ways. You can see, we're about a cap on immigration, and he's a marketing man. So he's got the talent there. We'll see how it goes. Well, guys, I will see you all tomorrow. I'm doing my daily videos in December. And take care, everyone. I'm going to just go get a coffee and play some computer games tonight because I finished a huge project this morning and it's been killing me for the last 3 weeks. So, guys, see you all. Thanks for joining me. Watching this type of stuff is much more fun if I have people leaving comments. You know how it is. I just need beer next time. See you all later. Bye.